NIMI, Chennai. I am S. Sivarasu from NSTA, Chennai. Today we are going to learn about linear measurements and their units, steel rule and the types of steel rule. Let us see the objectives. Number 1. State the base unit of linear measurements as per System International. Number 2. State the multiples of meter and their values. Number 3. Define steel rule and their uses. Number 4. Types of steel rule. Number 5. State the precautions to be observed while using steel rule. Firstly, we will see about linear measurements. What is mean by measurements? A number that shows the size or amount of something. Usually, the number is in reference to some standard measurements such as meter or kilogram. The base unit of length as per SI is meter. SI unit is that it is an abbreviation of French word System International. The international system of units, especially SI in short form, is the metric system that is used universally as a standard for measurements. SI units play a vital role in scientific and technological research and development. The SI units made up of some base units. Number 1. Meter. The meter is used length unit of measurements. The symbol is M. Number 2. Seconds. Symbol is S. The time unit of measurements. Number 3. Kilogram. Symbol kg. Mass unit of measurements. Number 4. Candela. CD. Luminous intensity unit measurements. Number 5. Kelvin. K. Temperature unit of measurements. Number 6. Ampere. Symbol A. Electric current measurement unit. Linear measurements. What is mean by linear measurement? Linear measure is defined as measurement of length. Length, SI units and multiples. First we will see the base unit. The base unit of length as per the Systems International is meter. The table given below lists some multiples of meter. 1 meter equal to 1000 millimeter. 1 centimeter equal to 10 millimeter. 1 millimeter equal to 1000 micron. 1 micrometer equal to 0.001 mm. Measurement in engineering practice. Usually in engineering practice, the preferred unit of length measurement is millimeter. Even both large and small dimensions are stated in millimeters. The British system of length measurement. An alternative system of length measurement is the British system. In this system, the base unit is the imperial standard yard. Most countries, including Great Britain itself, have, however, in the last few years, switched over to SI units. Next, steel rule. In modern industry, there are many types of measuring instruments are using according to their accuracy of job. For an example, a scale is measuring device used by architects and engineers that assist them in marking drawings to a scale other than full size. A rule is used to measure actual sizes. The tape is used by tailors for measuring and marking on Cloths. The most important tool which is often used by the fitter for measuring purpose is called steel rule, or we can call it as engineer's steel rule. An engineer's steel rule are used to measure the dimensions of workpieces. I hope you are all understood about the linear measurements and their multiple values, steel rule. Thank you. Good morning everybody. Welcome you all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am S. Sivarasu from NSTA Chennai. Today we are going to learn about linear measurements and their units, steel rule and the types of steel rule. Now we will see the steel rule materials and their sizes. Steel rules are made of spring steel or stainless steel material. The edges are accurately ground to form straight edges. The surface of the steel rule is satin chrome finished to reduce glare and to prevent rusting. These rules are available in length of 150 mm, 300 mm and 600 mm. The reading accuracy of steel rule in metric system is 0.5 mm. In British system it 1/64 inch. For accurate reading, it is necessary to read vertically to avoid errors arising out of parallax. Steel rule in English measure, they can also be available with metric and English graduation in a complete range of sizes 150 mm, 300 mm, 500 mm and 1000 mm. Now we will see the types of steel rule. Number 1, narrow steel rules. Number 2, short steel rules. Number 3, full flexible steel rule with a tapered end. Now we will see the one by one. Number 1, narrow steel rule. Narrow steel rule is used to measure the depth of keyways and depth of small dia blind holes of jobs where the ordinary steel rule cannot be reached. Its width is approximately 5 mm and thickness is 2 mm. Next, short steel rule. This set of 5 small rules together with a holder is extremely useful for measurements in confined or hard to reach locations which prevent the use of ordinary steel rules. It is used suitably for measuring grooves, short shoulder, recesses, keyways, etc. In machining operation on shapers, millers and tool and die work, they are used. The rules are easily inserted in the slotted end of the holder and are rigidly clamped in the place by slight turn of the knurled nut at the end of the handle. 5 rule lengths are provided: 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch and 1 inch. And Each rule is graduated in 32 on one side and 64th on the reverse side. The last and final one, steel rule with a tapered end. This rule is favorite with all mechanics since it is tapered end permits measuring of inside size of small holes, narrow slots, grooves and recesses, etc. This rule has a taper from 1/2 inch width at the 2 inch, graduation to 1/8 inch width at the end. Now, we will see the care and maintenance. For maintaining the accuracy of steel rule, it is important to see that its edges and surfaces are protected from damage and rust. Do not place a steel rule with other cutting tools. Apply thin layer of oil when not in use. Some measurement of length we will see in the tabular column. First we will see the metric. 1 micron equal to 0.001 millimeter. 1 millimeter equal to 1000 micron. 1 centimeter equal to 10 millimeter. 1 decimeter equal to 10 centimeter. 1 meter equal to 10 decimeter. 1 decameter equal to 10 meter. Next, British system. Some measurements of length we will see. 1000 of inch equal to 0.001 inch. 1 foot equal to 12 inch. 1 yard equal to 3 feet. 1 furlong equal to 220 yards. 1 mile equal to 8 furlong. I hope you are all understood about the steel rule and the types of steel rule, care and maintenance of steel rule. Thank you. Greetings. Welcome you all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am Sivarasu from NSTA Chennai. Today we are going to discuss about marking of and marking table. Before entering into the subject, now we will see the marking out. The process of transferring a design, layout or dimension from the drawing to the workpiece is called marking out. What is meant by marking off? The marking off or layout is carried out to indicate the location of operation to be done and to provide a guidance during rough machining or filing. Purpose of marking. Number 1. Marking line gives the guidelines to the worker. Number 2. Time is saved because worker knows that what is the right operation of the job. Number 3. It ensures that the correct amount of material to be removed. Number 4. Repeated checking is avoided. These are all the purpose of marking. Now we will see the witness marks. The line marked on metal surface is likely to be erased due to handling. To avoid this, permanent marks are made by placing punch marks at convenient marks interval along the marked line. The punch marks act as a witness against inaccuracies in machining and hence They are known as witness marks. A marking table is used as a reference surface for marking on workpiece and it is very precision equipment. Marking tables are rigid construction with accurately finished top surfaces. The edges are also finished at right angles to the top surface. Marking tables are made of cast iron or granite and are available in various sizes from 250 mm into 250 mm to 1000 mm to 1000 mm and shape like square, rectangular and sometimes available in round shape also. These tables are also used for setting measuring instruments and for checking sizes, parallelism and angles. Lines are engraved on the top of the marking table at the equal distance for setting up a job. Now we will see the care and maintenance of marking table. A marking table is very precious equipment and should be protected from damage and rust. After use, the marking table should be cleaned with a soft cloth. The surface of the marking table made of cast iron and it should be protected by applying thin layer of oil. I hope you all understand about marking of the marking table and their uses. Thank you. Good morning everybody. Hearty welcome you all on behalf of NIMI, Chennai. I am S. Sivarasu from NSTA, Chennai. Today we are going to discuss about measurement of angles. Firstly, we will see about objectives. Number 1. State the units and fractional units of angles. Number 2. Express the degrees, minutes, seconds and their units of symbols. What is mean by measurements? Determining the size of a component in terms of standard unit is called measurements. SI units is that it is an abbreviation of French word System International. The international system of units is called SI, or we can say simple SI units. It is the metric system that is used universally as a standard for measurements. SI units play a vital role in a scientific and technological research and development. Now we will see what is meant by angle. In geometry, an angle means two rays meeting at a common endpoint. An angle symbol is represented by here. Now we will see the unit of an angle. For angular measurements, a complete circle is divided into 360 equal parts. That means 360 degree. Each division is called a degree. A half circle will have 180 degree. Quarter circle will have 90 degree. Next, subdivision of an angle. For more precision angular measurements, 1 degree is further divided into 60 equal parts. This division is 1 minute. A minute is used to represent a fractional part of degree and is written as a 30 degree, for an example 30 degree or 15 minutes. Again, 1 minute is further divided into smaller units that is called as seconds. There are 60 seconds. Good morning everybody. Hearty welcome you all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am S. Sivarasu from NSTA Chennai. Today we are going to discuss about measurement of angles. Last session we have learned about measurement of angles. Now we are going to discuss about measuring standards. Let us see the objectives. Number 1. Describe the measuring standards of English and metric system. Necessity. All physical quantities are to be measured in terms of standard quantities. What is meant by unit? A unit is defined as a standard or fixed quantity of one kind used to measure other quantities of the same kind. Now, classification of units. Fundamental units and derived units are two classifications. Now we will see the fundamental units. Units of basic quantities of length, mass and time. Derived units. Units which are derived from basic units and bear a constant relationship with the fundamental units. For an example, area, volume, pressure, force, etc. Next, we will see the system of units. Number 1, FPS system. Number 2, CGS system. Number 3, MKS system. Number 4, SI units. FPS system. FPS system is the British system in which the basic units of length, mass and time are foot, pound and second respectively. CGS system. CGS system is the metric system in which basic units of length, mass and time are centimeter, gram and second respectively. Next, MKS system. MKS system is another metric system in which the basic units of length, mass and time are meter or kilogram and second respectively. SI units is referred to as Systems International Units in which is again a metric and basic units. Their names and symbols are listed in the table. In this table we will see the metric unit and British unit, the name and the quantity, symbol, we will see the one by one. First, what are all the basic quantities? For an example, length, mass, time, current, temperature, light intensity. Related to the name, length means we can measure in meter in metric system. The symbol is M. Mass means the metric unit is kilogram. The symbol is kg. Time, the name of metric unit is second. Symbol is S. Current, the metric unit is ampere. Symbol A. Temperature, in metric units Kelvin. Symbol is K. Light intensity, metric unit candela. Symbol CD. Next we will see the British units, name and the symbol. A foot, we can the symbol F. Pound, we can say the symbol P. Second, always in both metric and British system are S. Ampere, symbol is A. Fahrenheit, you can see the F upon degrees. Candela, CD. I hope you are all understood about measurement of angles. and their symbols. Thank you.
Greeting and welcome all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am G. Rajeshwarna from NSTA Chennai. Today our class is about Introduction to National Electrical Code NEC 2011. India is on the path of its development and the infrastructure sector has grown progressively. The buildings and service so constructed depends upon the power for the construction and for better utilization. In fact, power is one of the prime mover of development and electrical energy is the predominant energy is being used because of the easy generation, transmission and final utilization. Specific regulations to be adhered in the supply and the use of electrical energy to be laid down in Indian Electricity Act 1910 and the Indian Electricity Rule 1956. In order to rationalize these practices, India's first National Electrical Code was formulated in 1985. It has several well-established codes of practices which give the assistance for selection of economics, installations and maintenance of electrical equipments on the usage of electrical energy. It had also been planned that the relevant code is revised. The National Electricity Code has also been revised. In the present scenario, there is a vast variant from the National Electricity Code which was formulated in 1985. The task of revision of NEC was taken up by the Electrical Installation Sectional Committee. So the revision follows the earlier forms of NEC with the modifications and additions in the line in the series of IEC, what we say International Electrotechnical Committee, named the series 60364 in the Act of Electrical Installation. Generally, safety, economy, reliability, convenience as well as the provision for future expansion are the major consideration while considering the electrical layout. Generally, NEC guidelines are provided based on the installation characteristics, supply characteristics and parameters. And also it covers the switchgear for control and protections, supply lines, earthings, meterings, services, fire protection and miscellaneous also considered on this. National Electrical Code 2011. The code is divided into 8 parts which are further divided into number of sections. Each section refers the description of the electrical items, devices, equipment, etc. Let us see the overview of the parts and the corresponding sections. So part 1. Part 1 covers the general and common aspect which would apply to all types of electrical installations. Wiring installations are an important aspect of any electrical installation. In part 1, 20 sections are there. Each section reference is given below. Section 1. Section 1 of the code describes the scope of the National Electrical Code. Section 2 covers definition of items with references. Section 3 covers graphical symbols for diagrams letters, symbols and signs. Section 4 covers of guideline for preparation of diagrams, chart and tables in electrode technology and for marking of conductors. Section 5 covers units and system of measurements in electrode technology. Section 6 covers standard value of AC and DC distribution voltage, preferred values of current ratings and standard systems frequency. Section 7 elaborates the fundamental principles of design and execution of electrical installation. Section 8 covers guidelines for assessing the characteristics of buildings and the electrical installation therein. Section 9 covers the essential design and constructional requirement for electrical wiring installation. Section 10 gives guideline and general requirements associated with short circuit calculators. Section 11 covers requirements of installation work relating to building services that use electrical power. Section 12 covers general criteria for selection of equipments. Section 13 gives general principles of installations and guidelines on initial testing before commissioning. Section 14 covers general requirements associated with earthing in electrical installations. Section 15 covers guidelines on the basic electrical aspects of lightning protective systems for buildings and the electrical installation forming part 1 of the system. Section 16 covers the protection requirement in low voltage electrical installations of buildings. Section 17 covers causes for low power factor and guidelines for use of capacitors to improve the power factor in consumer installations. Section 18 covers the aspects to be considered for selection of equipment from energy conservation point of view and guidance on energy auditing. Section 19 covers guidelines on safety procedures and practices in electrical work. Section 20 gives frequently referred tables in electrical engineering work. Our NEC, National Electrical Code, is intended to be advisory. It contains guidelines which can be immediately adopted for use by the various interests of safety, economy, and it can be kept to the intent for the electrical installation practices to the par of the best practice in the world. Optimum benefits of the electrical energy utilization is only if the electrical installation is of sufficient facility and it is affordable flexibility. Now I hope you all understand the concept of National Electrical Code 2011. Thank you all. See you in our next video. Greeting and welcome all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am G. Rajeshwarna from NSTI Chennai. Today our class is about Introduction to National Electrical Code NEC 2011. Part 2. Electrical installations in standby generating stations and captive substations. This National Electrical Code Part 2 is primarily intended to cover the requirements relating to standby generating stations and captive substations intended for serving a building or group of buildings. This part is not intended to cover captive generator sets of very large capacities. This part 2 covers only the standby generating sets up to the capacity of 5 megawatts. Similarly, the substations up to the capacities of 10 megawatt and 33 kilovolt are covered. This part 2 also does not apply to the generating stations coming under the jurisdiction of the Electric Supply Authority in a city or metropolis. Next is Part 3. Electrical installations in non-industrial buildings. Part 3 of this code therefore covers requirements for major types of non-industrial occupations. It is felt that a large number of occupancies would fall in one of the categories, and for typical buildings which do strictly fall into any of these, resources shall be made to the general guideline stipulated in Part 1. This Part 3 consists of the following 7 sections. Section 1 covers domestic dwellings. Section 2 covers office buildings, shoppings and commercial centers and institutions. Section 3 covers recreational and assembly buildings. Section 4 covers medical establishments. Section 5 covers hotels and Section 6 covers sports buildings. Section 7 explains the specific requirements for electrical installations in multi-stored buildings. Next, Part 4, electrical installations in industrial buildings. This Part 4 of the code covers the guidelines for design and construction of electrical installations in industrial buildings. The Part 4 does not cover specific areas in industrial sites such as office buildings, workers' restrooms, medical facilities, canteen annexures, etc., for which requirements stipulated in the relevant sections of the Part 3 of the code apply. Next, Part 5. Outdoor installations. In Part 5, there are 3 sections. Section 1. This Part 5 Section 1 of the code covers requirement of public lighting installations in order to provide guidance to those concerned with the preparation of public lighting schemes, their installation and maintenance, and to lay down recommendations on the quality and quantity of lightings to be provided. This section deals only with electric lighting source and does not include gas or other type of lightings. Section 2. Temporary outdoor installations. Some outdoor installations are erected to serve for a small duration of time, after which they are meant to be dismantled. Such installations are called temporary installations. For convenience and keeping other aspects of safety provisions in view, this duration is defined as not exceeding 6 months. Section 3. Permanent outdoor installations. Permanent outdoor installations are those which are generally in use for longer periods of time. Part 6. Electrical installations in agricultural premises. This part of the code is primarily intended for covering the specific requirements of electrical installations in agricultural premises, which include premises where livestock are present and farm produce are handled or stored. Installations in agricultural premises shall be broadly classified into farmhouses and agricultural processing units and livestock houses. Example of such premises are stables, cow houses, sheep folds, stalls, hen houses, piggeries, etc. Part 7. Electrical installations in hazardous area. This part 7 of the code is intended to provide guidelines for electrical installations and equipments in locations where a hazardous atmosphere is likely to be present with a view to maximizing electrical safety. The scope of this part therefore includes installations in hazardous area such as chemical industries, petroleum refineries and other similar areas where hazards of explosion due to gases and vapor exits and in which flammable gases and volatile liquids are processed, stored, loaded, unloaded or otherwise handled. Next one is part 8, solar photovoltaic power supply systems. This part 8 of the code covers essential requirement for electrical installations for power supply system based on the solar photovoltaic energy, including systems with AC modules. The above descriptions are only the references of NEC 2011. Our NEC, National Electrical Code, is intended to be advisory. It contains guidelines which can be immediately adopted for use by the various interests of safety, economy, and it can be kept to the intent for the electrical installation practices to the par of the best practice in the world. Optimum benefits of the electrical energy utilization is only if the electrical installation is of sufficient facility and it is affordable flexibility. Now I hope you all understand the concept of National Electrical Code 2011. Thank you all. See you in our next video.
Good morning everybody. Hearty welcome you all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am S. Sivarasu from NSTA Chennai. Today we are going to discuss about ordinary depth gauge. First we will see the objectives. Number 1. State the uses of ordinary depth gauge. Number 2. Name the parts of ordinary depth gauge. Number 3. State the care and maintenance of ordinary depth gauge. In modern industry, there are so many types of instruments are using according to the job profile and accuracy of job to be checked. An ordinary depth gauge typical refers to is a semi-precision measuring instrument that is used by mechanical engineers, manufacturing engineers, and among others to accurately obtain the measurement of depth of bored cavity, recess, holes, grooves or other similar openings, etc. Depth gauge is used to measure the job with an accuracy of 0.5 mm, that is steel rule accuracy. Next, we will see the parts of ordinary depth gauge. Number 1, graduated beam. Number 2, clamping screw. Number 3, scale, that is steel rule. Number 4, base. Now we will see the one by one in detail. Number 1, graduated beam. The beam with main scale graduation in the sliding member or part in this graduated beam available the ranges of 0 to 200 mm. Number 2, clamping screw. The clamping screw is used to lock or tightening after adjustment is made according to the job height. Number 3, scale or rule. In this scale, main scale divisions are marked to up to full length of beam. Each main scale division value is 1 mm. Here, subdivisions are marked 0.5 mm also. At the end of the scale or rule, the relief is given at the end of the beam of depth gauge is to avoid the seating in the corners of slots and ensures the correct reading. Next, base. The base is the fixed unit and serve as a datum for measurement. It also carries the vernier scale and vernier graduation. Next, care and maintenance of ordinary depth gauge. Number 1, thoroughly clean and inspect the depth gauge. Number 2, fasten it to the movable jaw correctly. Number 3, set the depth gauge rod with its end its contact with the surface plate and check the if any error. Number 4, raise the movable jaw to clear the obstruction on the part. Number 5, place depth gauge in position and lower movable jaw until the rod of depth gauge contacts the measured point of the part feature. Number 6, do not give excessive pressure on the beam while taking measurement. Will lift the base from the reference surfaces. I hope you all understood about the uses of ordinary depth gauge, parts of ordinary depth gauge, finally care and maintenance of ordinary depth gauge. Thank you.
Greeting and welcome all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am G. Rajeshwarna from NSTI Chennai. Our today's class topic is Personal Protective Equipment, PPEs. At the end of this class, you shall be able to state about Personal Protective Equipment, PPE, and explain the purpose of PPEs. And you can able to list the categories of PPEs and explain the selection and proper use of PPE. As we discussed in our previous classes, occupational health and safety is concerned with protecting the health, safety and welfare of the people who engaged with the work or the workplace. PPE, personal protective equipment, is one of the method to avoid or control the workplace hazards to the employees. Let us see the PPE and the categories of PPE. Personal protective equipment, PPE. The devices, equipment or clothing used or worn by the employees which helps to protect against hazards in the workplace are known as personal protective equipments. Purpose of PPE. The primary approach in any safety effort is that the hazard to the workman should be eliminated or controlled by engineering methods rather than protecting the workman through the use of personal protective equipments. Engineering methods could include design, change, substitution, ventilation, mechanical handling, automation, etc. But in situations where it is not possible to introduce any effective engineering methods for controlling hazards, the workman shall use appropriate type of personal protective equipment to protect themselves from the occupational hazards. Use of PPE is an important thing in the work environment. The Factories Act 1948 and several other labor legislations 1996 have provisions for effective use of appropriate types of PPE. Next, what we are going to see is ways to ensure workplace safety and how to use personal protective equipment effectively. Workers to get up-to-date safety information from the regulatory agencies that oversees workplace safety in that specific area. To use all available text resources that may be in work area and for applicable safety information on how to use PPE in best way. When it comes to the most common types of personal protective equipment like goggles, gloves or body suits, these items are much less effective if they are not worn at all times or whenever a specific danger exists in a work process. Personal protective equipment is not always enough to protect workers against workplace danger. So, knowing more about and overall context of their work activity can help them to fully protect from anything that might threaten health and safety on the job. Thorough inspection should be carried out continuously to make sure that it has the standard of quality and adequately protect the user. Next, what we are going to see is categories of PPEs. Depending upon the nature of hazards, the PPE is broadly divided into the following two categories. One is non-respiratory and second one is respiratory. Non-respiratory, those used for protection against injury from outside the body, that is for protecting the head, eye, face, hand, arm, foot, leg and other body parts. Respiratory, those used for protection from harm due to inhalation of contaminated air. In the tabulation, we can see PPE 1 for helmet, PPE 2 for safety footwear, PPE 3 for respiratory protective equipment, PPE 4 for arms and hand protection, PPE 5 for eyes and face protection, PPE 6 for protective clothing and cover up all, PPE 7 for ears protection and PPE 8 for safety belt and harnesses. So I hope now you all understand the PPEs and the purpose of PPE, the categories of PPE and selection and proper use of personal protective equipment. Thank you and see you all in our next class. Greeting and welcome all on behalf of NIMI Chennai. I am G. Rajeshwarna from NSTI Chennai. Our today's class topic is Personal Protective Equipment PPEs. Let us see the hazards and the respective personal protective equipment and their uses. Type of protection. Head protection. The hazards can be falling objects from height, striking against objects on head or spatter the head. The type of PPE to be used is helmet. Safety helmet act as the first line of defense against head injury, but they only work when they are worn correctly. Safety helmets are designed to protect the head against falling objects from height. Second type of protection is foot protection. The hazards due to hard spatters, falling objects from heights and working on wet areas. The type of PPE to be used is industrial safety shoe or boot. Shoes are designed to provide protection from injuries occur due to objects like stones and sharp nails piercing on feet, or falling of heavy objects on the feet, or careless use of heavy-duty constructional equipment and vehicles, or sprains and fractures due to slips and falls, or electric risks and chemical spills. Next protection is nose protection. The hazards are due to dust particles or inhaling fumes, gases, vapors. The type of PPE to be used is nose mask. Respiratory protection equipment is used to protect the individual wearer against the inhalation of hazardous substances in the workplace air. Next type of protection is hand protection. The hazards are due to heat burns due to direct contact, blows, sparks, moderate heat or electric shock. The type of PPE to be used is hand gloves. It is important to wear gloves when working with hazardous chemicals and other infectious materials because they protect our hands from infections and contamination. Protective gloves should be selected on the basis of the hazards involved. For example, nitrile gloves protect against most chemicals and infectious agents. Rubber gloves protect against mild corrosive material. Neoprene gloves protect against most solvents, oils and mild corrosive materials. Next type of protection is eye protection. The main hazards are flying dust particles, or UV rays or IR rays, heat and high amount of visible radiation. The PPE to be used is goggles, face shield, head shield or hand shield. Eye injuries can be caused by direct contact with the chemicals or other hazardous materials. Workers are required to wear the eye protection at all the times when working with hazardous materials. Next type of protection is face protection. The hazards are, the hazards are spark generated during welding or grinding, or welding spatter strikings, or face protection for UV rays. The type of PPE used are hand screen or face shield, head shield with or without ear muff, helmets with screen for welders. Hand screen held in hand to provide protection to eyes, ears, face, neck and part of the top of the head during welding or grinding and cutting process. Next protection is ear protection. The hazard is mainly due to high noise level. The type of PPE to be used are head shield with ear muff or ear plug or ear muff. Hearing protection devices reduce the noisy energy reaching and causing damage to the inner ear. Ear muffs and ear plugs are the most common type of PPE for ear protection. Next type of protection is body protection. The hazards are due to hard particles or chemical spills. Type of PPE to be used are apron, bodyguard, overalls, splash suits and full body suits. It should be fire resistant and it should protect against dust, abrasions, rough and irritating surfaces, and it should adapt well to changing temperatures. It helps to withstand dry heat and flames. It works against chemical and physical hazards. Now, what we are going to see is the selection of PPE. The selection of PPE depends upon the nature and severity of the hazards at workplaces, type of contaminant, its concentration and location of contaminated area with respect to the source of respirable air, and expected activity of workman and duration of work, comfort of workman when using the PPE. It also operating characteristics and limitations of PPE. It also depends upon the ease of maintenance and cleaning of PPE, conformity to Indian or international standards and availability of test certificates. Next, what we are going to see is the proper use of PPEs. Having selected the proper type of PPE, it is essential that the workman wears it. Often, the workman avoids using PPE. The following factors influences the solution to this problem. First point, the extent to which the workman understands the necessity of using PPE. The best solution to this problem is to make wearing of PPE mandatory for every employee. In other places, education and supervision need to be intensified when a group of workmen are issued PPE for the first time. Summarizingly, we can say like this. The personal protective equipment PPE is designed to provide protection against serious hazards or illness. So, careful selection and proper use of adequate PPE will protect an individual from serious hazards. So, I hope now you all understand the PPEs and the purpose of PPE, the categories of PPE and selection and proper use of personal protective equipment. Thank you and see you all in our next class.